All right, another fellow passionate Jets fan to talk to here on Gangs All Here. Jake Brown here checking in. After Thursday's loss, we chat with the CEO of Vayner Sports, Vayner Media, V Friends, Wine Tex. You know him as our diehard Jet fan, maybe Jet owner one day, although I don't know if I'd want to own this franchise right now. Might have to give it some time. Let's welcome Gary Vee to the program. Gary, how you feeling today? How you feeling this morning after a loss that a lot of us say wrap up the Jets playoff hopes?
First of all, thanks for having me on. Happy holidays, everyone. Um, Weird, like a mix of I kind of always have this very weird feeling when the season's over. I know it's not mathematically over, but I think everyone knows we're not making the playoffs. So, a little bit level of deep disappointment, and I guess some weird version of relief. You know, I definitely go into the Seattle game with a very different energy than I've gone into every game this season. An energy that I think a lot of us have been accustomed to over the last 7 years at least, which is just indifference or hoping for playoff position. I mean, it didn't feel like this was going to be the season where I'd be going into games okay with losing because I wanted a better draft position, but that's the mindset I go into the Seattle game. Yes, it was rough. I was saying right before we started recording, I go to every game except I tend to miss the last home game of the season because my kids are off and we go down to Florida for vacation. And this was no different. And it's just very tough. It's tough. I don't recall. I mean, it's been years. I don't even think in 2015 I did it. It's probably been a good decade since I went crazy on Twitter about a Jets game. So I got a little frustration out late last night. I went to sleep at 3 a.m. We're recording this at 8:30, so not a lot of sleep, a lot of disappointment. It's tough.
Yeah, Gary. I mean, I can barely sleep either. It's so hard to after what we watched, not just at the quarterback, which we'll get to because that's the topic of the day, but the coaching staff. I felt halftime was the perfect chance, Gary, to make a quarterback change, inspire this offense, do something. You saw Strevler eventually come in after 2 3 and outs by Zach Wilson in the third quarter, but it was too little too late at that point, and they still didn't score anyway. But I just think that decision, the time management last week in the last 2 minutes, this is complementary football across the board. And it's not just the defense, which wasn't elite the last few weeks. It's not just the offensive line, the run game, but it comes down to coaching as well. And the Jets have been completely outcoached on top of everything else that's gone wrong.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, I think sometimes the other, that cliche statement, the other people get paid. I get the halftime adjustment. Listen, it's Strevler. I love him. He's scrappy. You love everyone who wears a Jets helmet. I mean, I hate Tom Brady more than anybody on earth when it comes to football. If he's a Jet, I love him. So you love Strev, but let's not get it twisted. I understand the emotions of last night, but I mean, did you see how wide open CJ was? That touchdown matters. We didn't convert. Corey Davis had a drop that I'm sure he'd want back. I do really think that Doug mapped a very smart game against the Jets defense. A lot of those kind of short, the tight end is always going to be a challenge in general if you can get him involved. And the run defense hasn't been, it feels like the run defense gives up a couple more yards than we're accustomed to, especially during the Harrison years and things of that nature. So, I think, yeah, I can understand why people can be frustrated across the board. And I really think that they just had a very good offensive game plan. And by the way, the defense, once again, played a little bit of a bend, don't break. They obviously gave up that very difficult drive, which pretty much kind of put the game into the rotation it needed to. But I understand. I also think we got to watch a full quarter of Strevler and listen, that offense with the run option, and you saw the Wildcats stun the Patriots out of nowhere 15 years ago with the Dolphins. It might have worked. I'm not sitting here saying that the Jets couldn't have won the entire game with 15 starting, running options and doing dump offs, but I don't think changing the quarterback at halftime would have changed the game. I really genuinely don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you activate Strevler, I mean, he didn't know when he's eating breakfast that he was on the team that day. Like, I mean,
Yeah, I mean, which is by the way, a good call by the coaching staff in reverse, knowing that, hey, number 2 is just not there yet, and he may never be. And like, I get it, and so.
And the number 2 quarterback didn't seem like you want to play Joe Flacco.
I mean, I think
more miserable in the sidelines, Gary, than Joe Flacco. My God.
Yeah, I mean, I think the good news is Joe Flacco looked miserable when he won a Super Bowl. So like that, just I think he just has Joe Flacco face.
Yeah, there's the Eli face and the Joe Flacco face.
Yeah.
Where are you with Zach? I think we've seen the end of Zach as in a Jets uniform. Was that the icing on the cake right there?
I have weird preference that it's not, and I don't think I'm totally affected by whether I am consciously or subconsciously. I think coach's comment about instant coffee is still right, regardless of how challenging the outing was last night. Geno Smith is a Pro Bowler. I think a lot of people recognize that Sam Darnold running this offense during this season probably has us in the playoffs, right? So I get it. Nobody's going to be excited about what's transpired here in the first 2 seasons. I mean, what are you going to get for him, brother? Like, I love when people talk without solutions. Explain to me the draft pick you're getting. Are you getting a 4th round pick?
No. You're going to have to eat the money, Gary. I mean, I know this is Steve Cohen and it's not easy to just eat money like he's been doing.
Well, Steve Cohen can eat money because there's no cap.
Yeah.
Like, rest assured, the NFL has nothing to do with baseball. Like, I understand, like, people get excited and talk hyperbole. There's no cap. You pay a tax. When I owned the Jets and there was no cap, I'd spend every dollar on earth to win a Super Bowl. Who gives a So I think the money eating isn't super scary to me because it's not the worst contract to eat as a first-year deal, even though it's the 2nd pick in the draft, so there's dollars there. It's just real life. Would you rather, like, I just ask logical Jet fans, would you rather get a 5th round pick, right, with an option of it going to a 4th if he plays well, or would you rather give him another offseason, whatever you do at the quarterback position, let him compete in training camp? Like, I don't know. I'd rather have him as a backup as a 3rd-year player who was drafted number 2 in the NFL draft.
I think there's nothing left. I see what you're saying, and they probably could get nothing for him. Listen, they'll probably get a 5th, 6th round pick for him, but like,
by the way, on this Friday after last night's game in the last 2 years and everything that's transpired, I'm sure many people are screaming right now or tweeting or replying like, I'd cut him, I don't care, or I'd take a 7th. I understand that logic. You're just asking me a question. I'm telling you that I'd rather not like trade him. I understand, but I don't know. Like, I'm a buyer that it takes time to develop. I understand why quarterbacks get thrown in now because of the salary cap, because of free agency. You used to be able to, like, Steve Young was a Buccaneer, brother. He's in the Hall of Fame. Like, like Kurt Warner couldn't figure it out. He did. Like, stuff happens. Jim Plunkett sucked. Terry Bradshaw sucked. Unfortunately, it's not 1977. I get it. But like, would I be stunned, beside myself, shocked if this kid figured it out in year 4 and 5 of his career? No, I wouldn't. And for me, that's not worth a 6th round pick.
Yeah, no, I completely see where you're coming from. I think he needs to go to a smaller market team. Maybe the Colts go after him.
I get it.
The pressure of New York seems to have gotten to him. It seems to be a mental thing at this point.
I really don't think it's the pressure. I really, no bullshit. I don't think it's the pressure. I just think he hasn't calibrated the speed of the game or reading or, whatever it is at this point. Like, it may be New York and, change of scenery has helped a lot of players, and I get it. I just don't think, like, again, I'm in my logical head now. I just don't think if the Colts called me and said, here's a 6th round pick with a conditional 5th for Zach, if I was the GM, if I was Joe Douglas, I just wouldn't consider that. I just think another year to see if it could be figured out. I don't think I don't think you hand him the keys to the starting job next year like you would expect the 3rd year of a second pick in the draft. But yeah, I wouldn't.
Mike White, Jimmy Garoppolo, thoughts as the potential answers for next year.
I don't know what the mark, again, this is what like, hot takes on social media or like people on TV that get paid to get viewership. So they go completely extreme. I'm going on this show overly logical today because I'm done with my emotions for the last 12 hours. So I'm on the other side now. I'm in that weird calm place, as maybe you can tell by my demeanor. What do I think? I think I want to know what the contracts are because we have a salary cap. Quinnen Williams needs to get paid, right? Mm-hmm. Quinnen Williams needs to get paid. I don't think Corey's back next year with that number. So there'll be some money freed up. CJ's played well. So I know they did some stuff with his contract, but they've got to address some stuff and some contract opportunities, and they're going to make a run. They think they're close. So what do I think? I think I have no clue what Mike White's market looks like, but if all dollars were equal, I'd probably go with Mike. He's got a lot of context with the team, right? The players like him. There's no confusion there. He understands the system. He's been here. I think people forget he's a 5th round pick, even though I think Jet fans know, but like the world doesn't know. Like non-Jet fans don't know he's a 5th round pick, which is more than solid pick for a guy who can play in the league. Dak was a 4th, right? I don't have to talk about Brady, and there's been plenty of others. And so, I think if all dollars were equal, I'd go with Mike.
Someone asked on Twitter, it's a curious question. If you were the owner, what's the first move you make tomorrow or after the season ends? Not just on the field, if a relocation, do you move the team to New York? If you're owner, what's the first move you make on or off the field?
I think a lot about what I want my thumbprint to be when it happens. And I'm a Jersey boy, but when I first came to America from the Soviet Union, I lived in Queens for a couple of years. And I do think identity matters. And so I've thought a lot about it, actually. I think if you're talking about, luckily the Johnsons are quite healthy and, hopefully they have many more years of ownership. I don't think anything transacts until, many years down the line. But, I think it'll be contextual to the moment. If it was this year, I would sign Joe Douglas and Saleh to an extremely long deal. I would tell the fan base that I don't believe in turnover when you've got quality people. I don't think any logical person who follows this team doesn't realize that this is the best duo we've had in a very long time. I love the way they think about the human, not just the player. I think it's the reason we've been better. We've gotten better. And so the first thing I would do is sign both of them to an extremely long contract, maybe a 10-year deal for both of them, just to let everybody know that we're going to build patiently. Because I think these GMs and coaches around the league fear their tenure and are forced to do short-term behavior, which I think really hurts the chances to build something significant. And so that would be my first move.
Is your second move moving the Jets to Queens? Where are we going? Are we going to the West Side Stadium package again? Where do you want us to move here?
I'd be, to shoot it incredibly candorous and truthful, I'm agnostic. I would just want to have our place. I can't stand the Giants. I hate them so much, my brother. I hate Giant fans. I hate the Giants. I hate the Giants.
That's it. All right. So you don't like even a Jersey. You would just like a new state. I agree. I mean, location sucks.
I'd play in Newark. I'd play in Nassau Coliseum. I'd play in Westchester. I'd play in Yonkers just to not play with the Giants. I'd play at Rutgers Stadium just not to share with the Giants. I hate them.
Wow. All right. I mean, listen, I think they need their own. I mean, this is the year 2022 in New York, New Jersey. Like the fact that both these
there's 100 stadiums.
It blows my mind. Yeah, I don't know about Newark. I don't know if I'm going to commute to Newark, but I would love them here in Queens. I live in Astoria, so I would love them right here in Queens.
I get it.
Right next door. I'll get there in 15 minutes. Don't have to worry about the trains home, the bridge home.
I get it.
It would be ideal. You get New York team, New York actually playing in New York.
By the way, I'd probably move them to New York. By the way, I just realized just so I could shut up all these Buffalo Bill fans, who, by the way, Buffalo Bill fans that you're listening, like this whole concept of like, we're the only New York team. You guys are less New York than anything I know. You're more Canada. You're not even America, Buffalo Bills. Come on, Bills Mafia. What a joke. You didn't hear from them for 20 years. These bandwagon fans hate them. They
I agree.
I can't, I hope, now I'm fully like Chargers get in the playoffs, go to Buffalo, Chiefs get the 1 seed, Chargers sneak in at 7, go to Buffalo, and Justin beats them. Just want to shut them. They stink. They're not that good.
Yeah, I hate when you're like, oh, New York sports. They're like, you can't forget New York sports without Buffalo. I'm like, you're Niagara Falls. Like, you're nowhere near New York.
There's nothing. Has anybody been to that place? There's nothing close. There's nothing New York about Buffalo. There's nothing even remotely close. It's such a joke. What a silly conversation.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'll send Staten Island along with, but I'm not a big Staten Island guy, so I'll send.
I actually like Staten Island. I think it's gritty. I think Staten Island kind of represents like what New York really is. I'm down with Staten Island.
All right, so we'll keep Staten Island and we'll get rid of Buffalo. I'm fine.
Yeah, Buffalo's Canada.
Yeah, no, their fan base.
They stink. They stink. I went to those games. I went to Toronto when the Jets played them on a, I don't know, Thursday night, I think years ago. That fan base is bandwagon is again. There's some real ones. I respect that. But like these youngsters, they stink. They couldn't name, they wouldn't know who, Lawson was if he walked in the room and all of a sudden they're bandwagon. They stink.
Yeah, I agree. You released it was an emotional video. Got me a little cutting onions about your mother and knitting the jersey. That was really cool. How important is that to you to own this team one day? Is that like something you have written on your on the wall? Like what's the importance of that to you?
It's just been a childhood dream. I think I kind of started baking it in 3rd or 4th grade, if I recall properly. Really, the chase of it is my dream more than anything. Like I really like trying. I'll be very fond. Like if Twitter's around or whatever the Twitter of the day is, when somebody else buys it in 19 years, everyone's gonna make their comments, and I'll be incredibly happy for that person because they've clearly achieved something they've wanted to. I really want to. I think I'm going to. I feel like I've got the capabilities to pull it off. But I obviously there's so much that goes into it working out. Yeah, I mean, I'm very close to my family, immigrant family who came from nothing. Like, I think a lot about that. For the people that don't know, like my mom knitted me I wanted a Freeman McNeil jersey when I was 7, because some of my friends had jerseys in the neighborhood. I love Freeman. That was my first season, 82. He went off. As some Jet fans remember that Bengals game, I'll never forget. And then we just couldn't afford it. That was just not in the cards. We didn't live like that. A $30 jersey or $20 jersey was just not real for our family at that point. And so my mom knitted me a sweater, and it's my prized possession. And the number 5 was on it. That's why I always throw up, for people who have seen me on social media, the 5 number. It's just kind of a head nod to like how much admiration I have for my mom and my family. And I really would love to pull it off, but the thrill of the hunt, I would say, is what drives me. I will try like hell to pull it off, and if it doesn't happen, as long as I left it on the field, I'll be okay.
Man, I wish you do one day, and I wish you had the capabilities to do what the baseball and Steve Cohen's doing, because as a diehard Mets fan,
it's fun.
We are obsessed with Steve. Like, what do you think will this go down, buying every player in sight?
It's funny. I grew up a Yankees fan. I grew up in like I said, I came from the Soviet Union. I grew up in Jersey when I really started picking my teams besides the Rangers. I picked them a little earlier. And so I grew up a Jets-Yankees guy, and it was really tough because the 80s, the Mets were really good, 86, 88, and the Yankees sucked. The Perez brothers, the Negro, like it was really rough out there. And then obviously the Yankees got good. They won in 96. I'm a little bit weird. The Rangers won in 94. The Yanks won in 96. And I kind of stopped going hard on it. I'm basically down to Jets and Knicks, though I've gotten much more back into the Rangers. But with the Yankees, my little guy, he had cousins 6 months and 6 months older and younger that I knew were going to be a Mets fan. So I've raised him a Mets fan. And so I'm just happy for Mets Nation. So obviously, as you can imagine, I'm sure this will make sense to everybody listening. So many of my Jet diehard friends are Met fans. And, I'm really happy. Like, ownership matters, and baseball probably the most, in my opinion, given that there is no cap. And if you're willing to pay the tax, and, I think there's just a lot of, exciting times ahead in Citi Field. They're going to have to still figure out pitching. It's still risky and a little bit older, so they could be vulnerable there, but that lineup's going to be really exciting.
I'm excited, man. It's going to be fun. Let's close it out, Gary Vee, with a motivational message to Jets fans who are feeling down today. Why should we be motivated? What's the Gary Vee message after the loss of the Jags?
Well, if you read me in my Jets thread last night, there was no motivation. I basically declared every good thing bad. But now that I'm in a calmer place, I think you'd have to be completely football dumb to not understand what you saw from Elijah Vera Tucker, what you saw from Brees. I'm even still praying for. I still can't unsee Becton's rookie year. I know it's been bad, but I have a weird feeling it might not have to be. It might not have to be. So there's still a long shot prayer there. I know back-to-back season enders is tough to come back from, but you got that in mind. I don't have to say anything to anybody listening here about Sauce and Garrett, right? That's just profound in this NFL to get a quarterback in a corner and with that skill set. Quinnen is and by the way, I don't know if everybody remembers, but 2 games into Quinnen's second year, go read Jets Twitter. He started to wake up against the Niners, which I think was the 3rd game that year. But go look at that. Go look at 19 games into Quinnen's career, or 18 games, because I think they played 16 that rookie year. Quinnen's all world. We know that. I don't know if people realize how young DJ Reed is. Some people may know my brother AJ reps him. So obviously I do know he's still very young. He's clearly a player. Our cap situation, Joe D has done a good job with the contracts. I think we're going to have some flexibility here. So there's just, Zonovan, I still think Michael Carter's, we got hurt this year, brother. We just got hurt, right? So I think the GM has also showed that whether UDFA or on waiver wires, look at all the pieces we were able to add. Nasty Nate on the offensive line, right? JFM, to remind everybody. We've just been able to upgrade and upgrade and upgrade, with those little shifty moves. Quincy, Quan. So you see, there's a lot to be excited about. It just, nobody wants to hear that shit this morning. Everybody.
Yeah, the big picture, there is,
but we were 7-4, and I don't think anybody listening to this could have seen a scenario where the Miami game wasn't going to matter. And the fact that it's not, me and AJ always said forever, for 20 years, just make every game count. We love them so much. Just make every game count. If you can make every game count, then that's cool, right? I think back to, obviously we all remember losing at Buffalo, but I even think back to when the Santonio Holmes era kind of, was starting to dwindle down. There was even that Dolphins game that we lost, the last game of the year, when the math wasn't good, right? It was a 4% chance. And I think we can all recall that if we'd won, we still wouldn't be in. But it was fun to at least have that game matter, right? Mm-hmm. And so for me, this season, as it was transpiring, I was getting so excited. I'm like, oh my God, it's first time in 7 years that they're all going to matter. So I think that's why last night hurt and this last month hurt so much, right? You just didn't, I remember looking at it, I was like, okay, Minnesota, Buffalo, Lions, Jags. I'm like, okay. And I was realistic about it. I could see there was a lot of injury. I think every Jets fan could see it, but you kind of were like, you know what, just go 2-2, right? If you lose to the quote unquote good teams, the first 2, fine, come back and win these 2 games in a 4-day period. But we played well in the very well in the second half against Minnesota. We played incredibly well on defense in the first half against Buffalo. We're a Michael Carter fumble away from who knows how that game plays out, right? And so I think that it's just so hard to feel like we're here. And the way the schedule played out, right? You play the Jags and Lions in October. You just wonder how different those games would have been. And so it's incredibly disappointing, but I think most Jets fans who are real fans, and I assume if they're listening to this podcast, they're real fans, I think have a very clear picture of what's happening. And God forbid, which means God willing, God forbid, we go 2 for 3 in these first 3 picks in this draft. And I actually think I'm going to make a fun prediction. I have no knowledge for everybody's sake, but I can even see this team trading either their first or second round pick for a high impact player. Cause I know you got to know that you're close, you got to know that you're close to having a nice team here. And so everybody knows we got to figure out the QB position. Who the hell knows what they're going to do there? But I know that they're going to work hard to figure it out. Back to my 10-year contract for those two. So that's where I'm at, brother.
All right. Well, I agree. Big picture. Unfortunately, today is not the big picture, but we had to get a little big picture positivity because
I don't know how positive that was, but
it was fairly positive. Listen, they were the 5th right tackle this year, Gary. Like you can't when the offensive line is that important. I mean, Cedric Ogbuehi was starting games. When you talk about picking up on the scrap heap, he's one of those guys.
I know, and with Cedric, that's what I mean. That's what has me optimistic. Like, let's keep stability here. Like I can't see a scenario where the owner freaks out if we lose 6 in a row, but who the hell knows? Like, I just know that we're not far. And things like Cedric are the things that Zonovan was a free agent, UDFA, right? Like, the 2 Michael Carters, what is that, 4th and 5th round? Like Clemens, 5th round. Like, this is like, there's something here right now. And so, I mean, we think about what I just talked about. And I didn't even mention Jermaine, who, by the way, because all the rookies are so out of their mind, like Jermaine has had a productive rookie season for that position. Like we've seen way worse from, Thomas. We've seen way worse from Golston. We've seen way worse from a lot of picks that we've had. And so, I think there's a lot here. And so there's a lot to be realistic about. I don't even find it as optimistic. I think when you have this many players that are this good in the first 3 years of their contract, we just need to we need to have one more offseason like we just had. Get us one more offseason where 2 of the first 3 picks in next year's draft crush and contribute right away. And let's have a big free agency. And I mean, we didn't even see Jeremy, our tight end, had a red shirt year. Tony Gonzalez. I don't know if you watched the Thursday night podcast. I don't know if you watched last night, but I was pumped that he referenced it. He was in deep trouble his second year as a football player. He had led the league in drops. He was getting booed all over Arrowhead. So for me, I loved Jeremy's game out of Ohio State. I still think that's a contributor. So, a lot to be hopeful for. By the way, just final thought, back to more optimism. I don't know if people really follow football like that, but I think we saw the cliche wide receiver second year hump that Brandon Ayuk had to go through, and obviously he's bounced back. And I think Elijah could be a massive contributor next year. I really genuinely believe that. And so a lot of things could go well. You got to stay healthy. You'd like to think, since we got so banged up this year, we could have a decent year with that next year. And so we'll keep building.
Brighter days are ahead indeed. Gary Vee. Follow him on social media at Gary Vee, Vayner Sports, Vayner Media, V Friends, Wine Text. I poured a glass of wine, not going to lie. A glass of Pinot Grigio for me after the second drive of the third quarter. I waited too long. I should have poured one in the first half. But, Gary, we appreciate you coming on Gangs All Here and hope to link up with you next year at a game. And hopefully the weather's a little bit better than was Thursday in Jacksonville. And hopefully the Jets are a bit better. Appreciate you coming on, and happy holidays and happy New Year.
Thank you, brother. Happy holidays.